All right, I am Pops, and welcome to another What's Your Story? And with me, as you can see, a great guest, Mr. Grant Gregory himself from across the globe, hanging out with Pops, talking about, I don't know, we're going to talk about some YouTube stuff. So how you doing, my friend?
Doing really good. Happy to be here. I've been slightly binging some of your content and everything. The one that you did with Saggy Melons, I thought was really good. I really enjoyed that one. So yeah, it's been a fun. It's been fun getting to know you, and I can't wait to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, no, man, it's great. I know we've been on a stream together now. We've been able to kind of have some of that, interaction sometimes with my schedule because I'm very limited on when I can stream and do certain things. I can't always do stuff with you guys and that kind of thing. But your journey, I've picked up enough of the pieces to get your journey from like doing kind of like behind the scenes stuff to doing some more like serious stuff on your channel, and that journey is a lot of what we'll talk about and that kind of thing. But before I get there, really talk a little bit about like your YouTube, like the early sort of like precursors of like, how did you end up like, listen, I'm going to turn the camera on, I'm going to dive in, I'm going to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, so essentially my journey started back in 2000 and I want to say 7 or 8. Initially, I was at film school and we found out about this new website called YouTube that you could post videos on, but no more than 10 minutes, and it had to be the aspect ratio of 4:3, which was what we were working at and everything like that. So I started literally just putting up all my videos that I did at film school.
Mm-hmm.
And was on there for a few years, got up to, I think it was probably close to around a thousand subs, which was a massive deal back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I started putting up episodes and stuff of a series called Lost because I was really into Lost. And then all of a sudden they brought in, no, you can't actually put stuff up if you don't own it. The copyright first materials things come in. So my channel got completely nuked, like straight off the bat. And then I think it was, I want to say probably around 2015. I had my channel, didn't really do anything with it, and then I was hearing all this stuff about Donald Trump, and
Mm-hmm.
the news media was saying everything it was going to say and everything. And I thought, it's about time I speak up against this, this prick, and I'm going to do my channel, and this will be good and everything. And I thought, well, just to make sure, I want to do some research first to make sure I get all my facts right. Um, and yeah, everything that I found out that the news was saying was a lie, and that just took me down this complete new rabbit hole. I guess what the term is now, that's when I got red pilled, I guess.
Sure. That's
Um,
I love that. I love the term. And for those of you who don't know the term, obviously it's a matrix reference, and the best definition of red pill is really quite simple, and that is literally like the red pill is you wake up and realize what you thought you knew has a lie. Like it's a completely different type of reality based on what you actually knew. So
yeah, and it was one of those weird uh like to say it's life changing, it would be an understatement.
sure.
I was part of a movie trivia league that we were doing stuff online, and it was a lot of fun. And I noticed politics were coming into everything that
Mm,
was happening, and then I was, because I really like doing debates, and long form discussion, and we were doing these. It was what they call like movie fights. So we'll get a topic. We'll get 5 minutes to argue our point. It'll be something like, um, if Martin Scorsese could do a superhero, who would it be? Sort of thing,
hmm
And then
hmm
we had to argue our points with it, and everything like that. But even then, the politics started getting into that. So I just went, you know what, I'm just going to walk away from it all. And in the meantime, I was just watching TV series, and then I come across this channel. It's a small channel. I don't know if you've heard of him, called Nerdrotic. Um,
Is that the guy that's also like a comic book guy? I'm not quite
yeah, something
sure.
like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think it's
Yeah,
something like that.
and
Okay, yeah.
yeah, he was doing review. Him and his wife were doing reviews on a TV series called Legion, which I was really getting into.
hmm Yep.
Um, and yeah, basically from there, I was just like, okay, this guy's got other stuff, and then everything that happened with Doctor Who, and all of our favorite beloved franchise slowly starting to be destroyed happened. Um, and from there, I was what they call a lurker. I just hung in the background, chatted to people every now and then on different streams under my alias, which at the time was the Comic Book Lad. I called myself that was because I've always loved comic books, but I was never an expert or anything on. That's why I called myself the Comic Book Lad, like I was still learning. With when they did Rebirth, it just got me straight back into to DC because I absolutely loved the first, let's just say, year and a half to 2 years of DC Rebirth. I think it was phenomenal, and started doing a little bit of content here and there with that, and then I just started meeting everyone, and then a couple of years later, I've now hit 80K subs, and I'm here talking to this lovely gentleman.
Well, let me go back to the nuking of the like the copyright stuff, because I've had this journey as well on different channels, and the channel I was co-owning, and that channel was part of Google News. We had press credentials. We would literally get video clips sent to us, and then we'd put them on YouTube, and within like a few weeks, they would wait until it was out there and you've kind of forgot about it and you got other things to do. Then you would just get a copyright claim. And it was like, what are you talking about? And sometimes you would get claims back then. You wouldn't know exactly what they're even talking about. Like, what video are you talking about? You would just get these random notices and things. And there was no mute, edit, clip functions. It was either you take the whole video down or not. There was no, it was crazy how much things have evolved, isn't it? Yeah. I think people forget. It's like the journey is like, wow, it was completely different culture. Do you even still have the stuff that you did back in the day like that? Do you back it up somewhere?
I do have it on a hard drive, but that hard drive, I don't know how damaged it is. As you know, hard drives over the years tend to go. I think the only thing from my film school stuff that I've got, because it's all on mini DV tape, so I've still got it. I just need to redigitize it and do it that way. I've got one short film that I've done that's actually on my current channel at the moment. But I mean that's stuff that we were doing. We were doing Lost theories, so we'd play a 5-minute section of the TV series and then talk and discuss about. It wasn't like what we do now. We got to pause every couple of seconds. We just played the whole thing and then we talked about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, for obvious reasons, it got nuked. But yeah,
it's completely. It's just such a completely different world, and then the rules are changing ever so fast. Like, it's just insane. Like, trying to keep up with what you're allowed to do or not do, and they retroactively.
And they don't tell you until afterwards. That's the problem.
Yes. So, all right. So let's transition into some of the new stuff, because the other thing too I noticed, and one of the things that really you really kind of popped on my radar screen to really kind of spend more time looking at some of the stuff you're doing. You sort of, like, for the lack of a better term, you at least cracked the code to kind of understand what YouTube is trying to accomplish with shorts and compete with TikTok. Talk a little bit about that journey a little bit and kind of like your experimentation.
Well, okay. I can't really take a lot of the credit. I noticed there was another fellow creator called Zax. He was posting
is that the guy, like, he was posting videos or something from Canada, right? I mean, that guy, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of him. I think I've heard of the right guy.
Yeah. He was doing Band of Brothers, sort of stuff. Yeah. And he started doing it, and then all of a sudden he gained like 4,000 or 5,000 subs. Yeah. And I noticed that he was putting stuff out like one video every couple of days, sort of thing. And I was just like, okay, so if YouTube is pushing shorts, I wonder how and what exactly they're doing. So I just did a little bit of Google detective work. Go onto YouTube and see what some people who have had success were saying, and I got no good advice. Everything that I heard from one person, I heard the complete opposite from the next. And it was just like, it's like, okay, well, why don't I just start putting out shorts, one a day, see what happens. And I think the first one that actually took off was probably about a week later. And I got like 2,000 or 3,000 views, and that was at that stage my biggest viewed video. And I had ones that had 4 or 5 views, and I had a whole heap scheduled, and I just went, I'm just going to drop them. I'm going to drop 4 a day. Drop 4, drop 4, drop 4, and see what happens. By the time the 4th day happened, and I dropped those 16 clips in 4 days. The video that had the least amount of views hit 1.5 million.
Oh wow, holy cow. Yeah.
And not just that, when I jump on with like my wife's account or another account that that's not linked to my account, and I go to shorts, I was always finding those videos straight off the bat. First, second, or third it was there. And it was Reacher, the Jack Reacher, the Tom Cruise fight scene where he takes 5 versus 1 guy. I made sure to fill up the entire screen because I noticed that a lot of videos that were starting to get pushed were encompassing the entire screen, not just like a box sort of thing. And all the ones that I was seeing were basically going for the full minute. So I changed all my videos completely full screen all the way to 59 seconds and 29 frames each video, and then within, I'd say, a week of doing that and then uploading a couple of videos here and there in between that, I had my first video hit 10 million views.
Fascinating. So it didn't give you copyright claim warnings or strikes or anything like that for using that content for a minute?
Not until the Rorschach one did get a copyright claim once it hit 15 million.
Okay.
But what I was also doing was stuff that had the music in the background. I was using it's just a free website that'll pull audio, music, and vocal out in 2 separate tracks. So I was extracting the vocals and putting in just copyright free music in the background. Because the first thing that I know copyright will pick up on is music.
Right.
And what I was doing, I was taking, say, 3 or 4 minute scenes and cutting them down into a tight 1 minute scene. So there was no wasted.
It was yeah. Okay. So it's not a consistent. Yeah. I find that same thing. I'll take something like 30 seconds and I can whittle it down to 11, piece here, piece there, piece here, piece there. So I've modified it so much. It's actually not in order, even though it could be a longer segment. So, do you mind sharing that website? Like people can learn from, like, this is the website you use.
Yeah, I'll have to jump on. I've got that many different AI websites. It's just an AI one.
Okay, just let me know. All right, so you're navigating this process, seeing, okay, well, if I can get it down to a minute, minutes do better. I can, find this popular type show. I tweak this, I tweak that, edit this. How are you editing these on your phone or are you using your desktop?
I'm using my desktop computer. I've got the full Adobe suite. So yeah, I originally learned everything on Mac on Final Cut Pro and all those ones. But when you're in film school and you can use their equipment, it's great. But as soon as you get out, you realize Apple's quite expensive, like stupidly.
Yeah.
And then I'd be able to get like older models of like After Effects and Premiere to do any sort of editing. At that stage, I was doing television commercials as my main source of income, and so was able to subsidize to get the latest one. But as soon as I started doing the YouTube stuff again, I needed to get a new software. But then luckily enough, they went to the cloud system, where it's just a subscription each month, which works perfect for me. Saves me spending $4 or $5 grand a year on the latest sort of stuff. So yeah, and I just got everything set up ready to go. Like I'll find a clip and I'll watch it through. It'll be 3 or 4 minutes, and we're like, okay, I'll put it through a little AI thing that'll look for silence, and anything that's silence, I'll just cut it out. I'll mark it, cut it out, so that way, there's no dead frames. The main thing when I was doing advertising and everything is that you never want something static, especially for a short. Like if you've got 2 or 3 seconds in a short where not a lot's happening, that's 5% of your video, and people turn off really quickly.
Good point. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so how far into the timeline you've been doing this for? So you're learning this new thing. You're doing it. It's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. How far along are we in the timeline of the grand short experiment?
September last year I started.
Okay. All right. Okay.
yeah, so it was around September, where it all started to pick up. And beginning of September, I didn't even have 1,000 subs.
Okay.
End of the year, I was at 70,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. With videos that have millions of views, some are dealing with some copyright. So when you would do so let's say they would flag one of those as copyright, let's say in December, it's been up for 2 months or whatever. Would you trim and edit and clip and do that kind of thing to try to tweak it? Or how would you approach modifying it?
If it's something to do with Warner Brothers, I won't do anything. Warner Brothers is like a dog when it comes to its favorite chew toy. If it's got its teeth in something, you'll never let it go.
Mm,
There's no point in fighting it. So you can either accept it, or get rid of it.
okay.
So some videos I've gotten rid of. If they say that there's not going to be an issue or anything with it, that there's no chance of an actual channel strike, then I'll leave them up.
Okay. How long until things took another left turn? Because then you went through like a major channel attack, basically a channel theft, if you will.
Yeah. That was around the time that I think I was probably gaining about maybe 2,000 or 3,000 subs a day. And I wanted to see if that would actually translate into like viewership, or whether it was just purely and simply people were seeing me on the short feed. They were subscribing to me because they liked the content, but would they actually come back? So I went on and I did just a quick 25 to 30-second little video saying, "Oh, I'm going to be going live soon and everything. Make sure you jump on just to see the numbers, not a short, just a regular video."
Mhm.
And I got 6,000 views in the first, I want to say 3 or 4 minutes, sort of thing, of the video being up. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go do a long stream. And in between that time, I got knocked out of my channel. Someone from, I'm assuming from Google, someone who has access to it, was able to use some sort of master key to get me out of my account. I couldn't upload. I couldn't do anything. But there was this weird little workaround that I had because I use VPNs a lot. And for whatever reason, because the VPN that I was using, it didn't log me out of my desktop computer. I could still see everything was going on. I could see them privating videos. I could see them changing banners. I could see all that. They went live to try and sell Bitcoin. They tried to sell a bunch of stuff, FTX stock. This happened probably about 4 or 5 hours before that whole FTX collapse.
Wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. So
Wow.
and they had 20,000 people watching. Apparently, that's what it said on the analytics. Whether they were able to fudge those numbers or buy views, I'm not exactly sure how that end of YouTube goes. But yeah, they were trying to dump as much stuff as possible. But I still had minor access, so I could change the thumbnail for the thing. And I said, this video is a scam. And I go, my channel's been hacked. So they changed the live chat mode to subscriber mode only. You've got to be subscribed for more than 10 years. Little did they know that my wife has been subscribed to me for over 10 years, so she could still comment.
Mhm.
So then they changed it to 15 years. And I managed to be able to get the thing shut down by constantly spamming profanities and everything in the chat. Knowing YouTube would pick up on that sort of stuff, doing it, flagging my own comments as hateful ones, and the stream got shut down because of it.
Okay.
As a result, the channel got nuked because stealing someone's channel is considered a channel violation, and because they did it on my channel was the one that had to suffer for it. So I lost my channel completely and everything. I lost my Gmail, and what they don't tell you is any associated channels or emails associated with that one will go on as well. And
Wow.
I manage 5 different channels do producing and doing different things. Plus, I've got a lot of family channels and different things like that when it comes to Google Drive, all gone. So yeah, I had it was an intense week.
So it's almost like it blocks access to those, basically an account, right? So if you have if you just have a Google Doc or you have a Google spreadsheet, but it's attached to email X, they block email X. You can't even get to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So all the family documents, they were all you're unable to get to it. We couldn't get to the weird thing about it was like I emailed my email address and it come back with a mail DM. This doesn't exist. I'm like, holy shit! So it's legitimately gone. Like there's no redirect. There's no nothing, and took a while because you got to prove who you say you are.
Right.
So you got to go on camera. You got to say certain phrase. You've got to show your ID. You've got to do this. You've got to. Mm-hmm. They want really oddly specific things. Okay. Did you have a video that hit 1 million? What date and what time did it hit? I'm like, I don't freaking know. Yeah, like, just you got to get as close as possible to it. And it turned out what they had a thing called a Google key. So it's a USB key. The only way you can log in is if you put that USB key in and use a thumbprint. They had that. Somehow they were able to change my 2-step verification. They changed all of that. They bypassed the main Google verification because every time something happens on my thing, it comes up on my phone and I say, yes, that was me. No, it wasn't me.
Correct. Right.
Didn't get a single notification about it. Everything was changed within a matter of, I'd say, a minute. The recovery email, the recovery phone number, the country, my the AdSense that was linked to it, the bank details were all changed. Everything was completely changed.
Man, so the Google key bypassed all of the measures and alerts and whatever. And then once it gets in, all of this happens. YouTube responds by shutting it all off. Now you're blocked out of anything that's attached to so all of the channels and all the documents associated with that email. And then you have to go through this recovery process where they're looking for video and all sorts of weird questions and that kind of thing to try to open things back up again. In the meantime, how are you communicating with them? Is it just like a help ticket? Is it like a forum? How did you even navigate that?
I jumped onto Twitter because my Twitter, even though my email address didn't exist anymore, I was still logged into Twitter, so that didn't affect Twitter. So I was able to tell people what happened, and thanks to everyone, we have such a awesome bunch of people in the fellowship community, whatever you want to call it. They just bombarded YouTube constantly with it.
We're doing that, yeah.
And they eventually got back to me and they said, all right, well, what we need is an email address that's not directly linked to my account. So I was able to use my wife's email address to do that. And then they got confused with her account. They're like, no, this account still exists. This ticket is now closed. I'm like, oh my God. Now I had to go back and tell them again, no, you need to open a new one. And it was probably about a fortnight before I got my Gmail back. Once I got the Gmail back, I thought, okay, good, everything's fine. I can go back to what I was doing before. But none of my channels were back. So I had just a blank. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start again from scratch. This is what it's going to go. It sucks. But in the meantime, so I created just a secondary channel just to put my backups on. Mm-hmm. And then 2 or 3 days later, I was on there, and then all of a sudden, I just saw one of my videos in the timeline. And I'm like, wait, what? My channel's back? No notification, no nothing from YouTube. It was just back.
So some sort of restorative process happened. They didn't really alert you or involve you in that process because you were already navigating like you made like another channel kind of thing. You probably already have connected from the producer side of things. Or I thought, go ahead and put me back. It'll give you access. Could you see any of your documents or spreadsheets or whatever else you might have had out there?
I could see stuff that was in my Google Drive. So yeah, I was able to get, once I got that back, the only thing that I lost is I probably lost about between, I'd say 20 to 30 old videos that I had on there, that they decided to delete once they realized that I still had partial access to the channel. But yeah, I just think I just made it not worth their time to continue pursuing it, and I still don't know exactly how they got in. All I know is that when I was hitting my biggest trend, my channel, they hit it at the right time to get a lot of people
when you
to
were on
watch.
your biggest stride, that's when this happened. You hit a
Yeah.
wall, and suddenly, next thing you know, like from 1 minute to the next minute, you're completely locked out. Gotcha. Wow, that's crazy. So the channel you have today, it's still that channel. It's just you've been able to carry on in some sort of way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so it's still the same channel as I had, and everything has gone back to where it was before it all happened. The momentum that I had, it's lost, but I'm slowly building it back up now. So, as I said, I was getting like 2,000 or 3,000 subs a day. So I was, according to its analytics, by Christmas I was supposed to have about 130,000 subs if I continued in that trend. Which would have been pretty cool, but I was just happy to get my channel back.
So let's take December as an example, if you don't mind me asking. Could you ballpark a figure? You don't have to even be too specific of like, so how many views did you end up getting from all of this? And then were you able to even get monetized for any of that? Or is it just sort of like X amount of views existed and I went through this crazy journey to get my channel back and here's where I'm at?
No, because in between that time they changed their policies. So
Of course they did.
yeah, so because I started my monetization process, and I linked all my AdSense in there, and everything was ready to go. And because of everything that happened, I couldn't monetize for, I think it was 45 days or something. So yeah, so when I went to do it in between that time, they had changed their what they call reused content policy. So taking a clip, editing it down,
Yep.
changing the audio and everything is no longer considered transformative.
Yep.
So yeah, where my channel stands at the moment is I'm not monetized. And if I keep any of the clips on there, I won't be monetized. But because it's now part of my channel's history, I may never get monetized on this channel, even if I don't have that on
Yeah,
there,
it's funny.
because Scott from Sporking News, he has zero copyright material on his channel for anything like that. Everything was deleted, and 3 times now he's been denied remonetization based on the same vague term of reused reused content and repetitive content.
Repetitive content. I haven't seen
Yeah,
that.
that's the new one. Oh, okay, so
Wait, before we get there though, because that's the one that,
yep.
so reuse content's what they did on my, like I referred to an old channel before, copyright claim types, like a lot of what we talked about, not the nuking Google key stuff, just the idea of just, you can never win the algorithm, this game that they keep playing with policies. And when I just thought, well, listen, I know because of what I've been doing, I'm like, I kind of understand what the new rules are. Let me go there and play with it. And it's all like locked down of quote reuse content. So it's sort of like in a freeze mode. Like there's no chance of fixing it. And it's like a rabbit down a hole of I have no idea where to go and what to do. And then like you said, since then the rules have changed again. So I think we're pretty caught up to the new term, which I guess is what Scott's really going through with Sporking News, is repetitive content. So explain what you've learned about repetitive content.
Okay, so what happened was when we went for the monetization on his channel, because that's one of the channels that I help manage. We had to go through an appeals process. So he did the appeal video, all the hoops that you have to jump through. They said that his channel wasn't the appeal video wasn't about his channel as a whole. It was about all the videos on his channel, which is a weird way of wording it. And they gave us a link to these are the problems. They don't tell you specifically what ones, but in it had the reused content. But under repetitive content, which was the heading that they gave to us, there was a part where it's talking about using news articles or web links that you do not own.
Okay,
So,
but
like,
that's
so like news stories.
all of YouTube. Like,
I
holy
know,
cow,
and
that's so like what on earth?
but that's
Okay.
the thing. Like, if they're gonna go that route, if someone, let's say for instance, someone like the quartering,
Mm-hmm.
if he gets demonetized for anything, he might not be able to get remonetized based purely and simply on this terminology.
Yeah, all of Tim Pool's original content was nothing but him in the corner talking about a news story that he has
Yeah.
pulled up on the screen. Like, I've been
Yeah,
doing this for years. That actually was considered like one of the safe things you could do.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
And now I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. So, oh man. Okay. Okay. No, I'm
But the
so glad
problem
this is why
is
I
they
wanted to
don't.
talk to you, because you're further ahead of even me. And I know there's people that they're messaging me, asking me for advice and questions. And I'm like, okay, I'm not up to date on some of the newer stuff because I haven't had any of those flags yet. I'm at the phase where I'm getting like greens that are now yellows. And
Yeah,
it's probably profanity. It's like the new profanity bubbles. Like someone's dropped this kind of curse word or someone's done this. And you're like, all right, well, that's probably what this is. Let me go through the review process and figure that out. But repetitive is a new one. And I'm so glad we had a chance to get to that point. So you've gone through an appeals process with Scott, but did they give you guys anything more tangible to go on?
that's the problem. They give you a link that has the reused, repetitive content on that page. So it's something within that page that they've deemed, but there's 10 different points. And the only thing that we can look at that he could even be guilty of within that is the news articles.
All right. Well, wow. That's frustrating.
Yeah,
It's this is literally like this new phase we're in 2023. Like, so much has happened in our 2.5 weeks with the profanity rules, and now this. And this is, as far as I know, you're the first person to use this repetitive term to really kind of deep dive and kind of explain it a little bit more for me to kind of get my head around a little bit. So
I can see if I can find the exact link because we would have it here on the.
I mean, it makes sense because this is how they respond to everything. They just say, all right, so you're guilty of reused content. And then you go to reuse content and it'll have a heading. And then there's like full 5 examples. You don't know what video they're referring to. You don't know, like you said, but previously you could take a clip, let's say it's a 4-minute video. You could edit it down to like 45 seconds to a minute. It's all out of order. It's intercut. There's pieces and frames missing or whatever. And that would absolve you because it's been so dramatically modified. And like, okay, well, now they're changing definitions. And then you're like, well, yeah, but which video?
And
Good
that's
luck.
the thing. It's also we'll never know what video it is either.
Yeah, you don't know. They don't answer
But then they say it's reflective of your channel as a whole.
That's crazy.
But I'm like, but what is reflective? How like, give us something like. But the problem is if you
give you an example, then you'd be able to quantify it. So let's say you had 1,000 videos and they say, oh, it's like this one, and you have that one. All right, well, now I have 30 of these videos. I could edit them, I could trim them, I could do something, I could do something and create some sort of modification, and that would allow things to happen. So
yeah. So I just dropped you a link in the private chat of the one that this was a direct link from the YouTube studio, as to say, to find out more details. Yeah, so what they said was, your appeal focused on a small number of videos in your channel instead of explaining your channel as a whole. In order for your suspension to be overturned, the majority of your channel should follow these policies. And then it has this link.
All right, let me pull this up. I'm not having much luck pulling it up for some reason. I see it. I'm looking at it, but my share. Hang on here. But I'll put the link in the description for you guys that want to see this, so you guys can know exactly what we're talking about. Oh, geez. I don't know. Idea why it's not popping up. That's so weird.
Yeah, the gist of it is that people, your videos can be confusing to people who aren't smart enough to understand that they're 2 different videos. But it says, oh, you can have the same intros and outros, just different content. Like, see, there's part of me that's starting to think when it comes to their terminology, reuse or repetitive content, they're not talking about stuff specifically on YouTube. So if you have a Rumble account or an Odyssey account with a video on there, and then you upload that same video to YouTube, will they classify that as repetitive or reused content? They don't specify
okay.
from the source. So I don't know. And the problem is every time I've tried to talk to someone from YouTube about it, I just get sent links like this. So
That's very interesting because we've all wondered what will they do and how and when will they figure out how to say, oh no, this content is exclusive. You can't put it on other platforms or whatever. And that seems like the thing that they're going to do or will try to do at some point. And this might very well be at least part of it, if not the actual thing that they do. That is fascinating.
Yeah, it wasn't changed to add any specific educational value. It's
value.
What was the term that they used? It was like not low interest content, low. It was a really odd terminology that they used.
So the beginning, the top part, folks, when you see it, if you go to that link, it'll be in the description. You can see all the stuff where it talks about the war on the other side of the globe. It talks about all that. And then it has monetizing. And then that's when you can see there's different community guidelines all the way through copyright, rights clearance, adjustment, AdSense policies, etc. That's where some of those things are. So you kind of follow those links and that kind of thing. So if you have questions in that link that we have there, that's what you'll find. So. All right. So we're in the dark, and your channel is at least, moving along. Scott's channel is, several steps behind some of us in some sort of flag and some sort of battle and lack of communication from the higher ups and that kind of thing. How does this affect, or what does this do for your sort of like, I guess, lack of a better phrase, like your spirit to do this? Does this make you more motivated? Is it like totally like throwing water on your fire? How is this affecting you and your motivation in all of this?
Well, I'm not going to lie. When it first happened, it's all like, well, what's the point? It's not about making money, but it was also nice to be able to hit a goal where you could make money. And then, even though I might have made, let's just say, $2 a stream, the idea that that's been taken away from me and that I can't do that now, I want that $2. Like, doesn't matter whether it's 10 hours worth of work. I'd be better off flipping burgers somewhere. But this is what I love to do, and the idea that I could, a little bit of money here to help and do other things would have been nice. And then you just think, well, okay, if I'm not going to get money, I'm spending my time. Is my time now worth doing it? And some days where it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything today. If someone wants me on their channel, I'll jump on, but I'm not going to. There's no point in putting any effort into my own work. And I kind of went through that the last month. I haven't uploaded anything on my channel for over a month. And for whatever reason, I'm now going through a growth spurt on my channel again.
Wow. It is kind of weird how that works. Because I have the same kind of thing where there was a couple of weeks where I had like a family emergency that kind of cropped up, and then I had like a scheduled vacation where we're going to be away. And I kind of had like clips of stuff to repost, reusing my own content. I'm pretty sure that's what will be against the rules next, right?
They'll still get you for that. Yep.
Yeah. Then I had like I won't call it growth, but I guess technically if you gain subscribers, that's growing. But it was like the numbers were very solid for me not doing things. And it was the same kind of thing. Like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. But I definitely get where you're coming from too, when you feel like you're following the rules. So the bigger issue is like you feel like you were wronged. It's like injustice. And that bothers me so much more than the actual dollar figure. Like I was wronged. Like that's probably the more painful part of it is for me personally. It's like, listen, I follow the rules, I think, and you guys won't even tell me what I'm doing wrong. That's what drives me completely nuts.
For me, it's the fact of the laziness of the others that are getting rewarded. People who are just legitimately just taking a clip, putting it in there, not even like recropping it or anything, just dropping it in there, and all of a sudden you look at their channel and they've got this little button down there that says super thanks. I'm like, okay, you can only get that if you're monetized. How are they able to be monetized?
Yeah.
Like
is what
that?
they're
Yet
doing.
I've gone through all the steps. Like the 1 minute videos took me a couple hours to do because I was like the Reacher one has 27 cuts in the first 30 seconds. So there's a cut like essentially turn it into a Liam Neeson film where there's that many cuts and movements, and because shorts are 19:6 instead of 16:9 like the movies are, I'm constantly moving the frame around, as I said, changing the audio, and it gets flagged, and that's the part that was more disheartening, I think, than anything. And I'm just like, well, okay, if what I did was wrong, okay, I could accept it. But don't
Agreed.
reward others for doing nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I can't tell you how many times, and again, it always ends up being on something that's like inflammatory type content. Like we did a talk hard on Blazing Saddles, and it was like this one section, and it's like, well, but we're talking and we're pausing. Like, why is that? Like, this isn't like it actually played. And you go through a review process to dispute a copyright or whatever. They just don't answer you. They just let it hang there because they have 30 days. So it just sits there for 30 days and nothing happens. So I've had that happen multiple times. The most recent time was Wakanda Forever. They just, like I said, if it doesn't pause right away or it runs for, let's say, 11 seconds or something, I'm like, okay, well, that's what the flag is. If I trim out 2 seconds, I'll meet the criteria. I'll be fine. But then whenever you go to the clip and you're like, well, wait, we followed the rules, that bothers me so much more whenever I think I'm following the rules. Like, I just like listen. If I screwed it up, I screwed it up. But I'm like, oh yeah, I can't imagine what you went through. It blows my mind to know that each hurdle is just leading to another hurdle, if not an actual wall. But here you are still persevering in some way, shape, or form. Wow, that's crazy. So
oh well, that's at the end of the day, you've got to, like, if this is something that I want to do, I can just piss and moan like an infinite jerk all day, and it's not going to achieve anything.
Right.
So if I want to be a part of YouTube, I've got to abide by whatever their ever changing rules are, or I could go start fresh at Rumble. At the moment, I'm in this happy medium where I don't have to do anything on my channel. I'm getting invites from I'm on a regular panel. I was lucky enough to be invited onto your show. So like I count that as, okay, this was the silver lining, this was the blessing for what happened to me. You know?
Okay.
I'm not necessarily able to build up my channel for any sort of financial gain or anything, but I can always look at alternative revenue sources. I could do stores, I could do other things. I can I started using the shorts to push people to other videos. I'd have on my shorts underneath the comment section, I would have a link. I'd say, check this out. And I did it to a video that was unlisted, so there was no other traffic that could get to it. It got 6,000 views in a week just from that. So there's other ways to do it, and it made me focus more on my community tab, which is the hidden gem of YouTube, I think, at the moment. Doing polls with images and different things like that is huge interaction.
Yeah, so let's go to that because that's something I don't do very well at. So let's talk about the community tab. What is some of the best ways? You mentioned the one, so let's elaborate on that a little bit about the polls, using image in polls. So literally just any random question, just like something that has a photo, because it's just like, all I gotta do is click it.
The photos seem to work better. People are more likely to click on something with a visual representation of it than that. I did it as because I was getting comments in the Jack Reacher video saying this was the like worst miscast in history. So I went, all right, went to Google, looked at what people consider the worst miscast in history of people, and I made a poll and put Tom Cruise, different people on there. Within a day, I got like 10,000 people.
Wow, that's amazing.
Voting on
it.
So
So three polls. If I did that, okay. So put in the comments what movie you'd like me to review next. Word poll. Decide which movie I review next. The Fablemans, Tar, blah 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 blah, or choose which movie I review next, and it's just the poster or mini image of each one. The third one is the one that would be the easiest and the one that's most bankable in your opinion.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Because I was doing content around that, like if you are something that's more personal to you, you won't get as many. Like if it's related directly to your channel,
correct.
People who don't see, because the big misconception of the community tab is you have to be subscribed to see it or go onto the channel. It's on everyone's front page. All you do is just scroll down. People will have polls and different things. And I think I got about 10,000 subs from that. Just from doing the polls. Like I do comedic actors, and it has nothing to do with my content, but it's the closest thing I have to evergreen content. People like to have their
fascinating.
Say.
Okay.
So,
do the polls end? Can you end them, or they just keep going for whatever?
They keep going. You can shut them down. You can do that. You can schedule them, but there's no like end to it because it's just essentially an opinion piece.
Okay. All right. Okay. That is really, so that is like a lot of great knowledge for me. Thank you. Cause I really thought of it as being something only for my subscribers, only for like, it's just like it's like a very small microcosm of me talking to my people. Now I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Yes, that part can happen, but there's also this part out here where it's like my brain operating of, okay, that's fascinating. I did not know that. So there you go, folks. If nothing else, I too have come home with some like major knowledge that I did not know and have not been doing correctly or well at all. So yeah, I agree with that's great to know.
Well, that's the beauty of experimentation with it. Like I wouldn't have known these things unless I tried. Like I as I said, I looked at videos to find out what to do. But the biggest problem is, as soon as someone figures out what to do, YouTube changes. It's a constantly ever growing thing. Like, like I can remember the day that YouTube went above the 10-minute mark. I was like, holy crap! You can actually this is going to be great. I can remember when they changed from star system to thumbs up, thumbs down. Oh my god, you can do widescreen now. What the? How are you going to do 1080p? There's no, you can't upload that. That's too big. Like I can remember all those things, and it's constantly changing. That's great for innovation, but it's terrible to try and keep up with it.
Yeah, I always said that, and one of the things, because I come from more like a website background, that the tech stuff was definitely the most challenging and the most sort of like wind out of your sails moment, where something technical will change and it's dramatically impacting your business for whatever reason. I know there was like a Google algorithm change, and it dramatically changed the structure of the article with how you had to have, this was your first paragraph, and it had to have, and this is where you see them play these games. If you go to these news articles, and it'll have like, this is the headline, and then the first sentence is the headline again. Yeah, that's because of the way the algorithm, it's the way the index, they changed it. So now that you're supposed to do that, and I refuse to do it. I just can't do it. My brain is incapable of repeating itself like that. I feel like I need to be on a short bus if I were to do that.
But
like,
just remember, that's not repetitive content.
Makes no sense whatsoever. Same thing with like links. Like it was like we've gone through the whole process of, originally it was Wild Wild West. Then it was, you have to have links and source what you're doing.
Yeah.
To the big people that had money paid, so there was no links. They could just steal from you, and maybe they refer to you or not, but there were no links for them to direct you back. And then it's like you have this roller coaster of what you're supposed to do, and this is from them. It's basically the exact same thing, because if you think of like as a Google News contributor, you're basically like working for their network for your site or however you want to operate. And it's the same kind of thing. Like you can't get views, you can't make AdSense revenue or whatever your contribution monetary system is when the rule changes like that. It's like, well, okay, so what I wrote 6 months or 6 years ago is no longer valid content because it doesn't meet today's content. So if it was evergreen, and let's say you had nickels coming in every month, they're just gone overnight because they changed to some other new rule. It's like, oh, it's so frustrating.
That's what a lot of people, I find, like, I don't have a lot of contact with what you would consider big upper tier YouTubers, but I do talk to a lot of people that are in the above a few million, and they run into that all the time. Like they'll have something figured out, and all of a sudden they'll be getting 80,000 likes on a video sort of thing, and it's something that they could look at in December and still be getting the same amount of views in October the next sort of year, but then always around January something happens and they just get a massive drop off.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't get why.
They make these they were called patches back in the day. They were called patches. We used to have so the funny story with this website that I was on, we were like getting a million views a month on this site. It was like only like 6 months old. We were rocking and rolling, right? And there was like a screener that I couldn't go to. So like the friend's wife went to review one of the Twilight movies, and her review went viral. And it was viral for years. We would literally get, like it was 3 to 5 years later. It was like every day, 50 views, 80 views. It was been years ago. And then one day the patch went into effect and it was just gone. And then it would come back for a day. It randomly would come back. Then it would go away. It was almost like someone was like pulling levers, allowing people to see this thing or something. It was so strange. But I literally watched it in analytics. And this is like 2010 to 2012, like when this was really like, we could see it, we could quantify it because it predated all of that. I'm like, oh, they really, really do control the mechanisms. And there is something to be said about levers of power. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy what they can do. Yeah. So so here we are. You've gone through this crazy roller coaster. You said you're not really doing like nose to the grindstone, a ton of content yourself. You're actually enjoying the experience of joining wonderful shows like this. Thank you for being with me, hanging out and doing that kind of stuff. What about like the other side? Because you mentioned you were doing producer work. I know you work with Sporking News, you work with Culture Casino, things like that. How is that going? How do you enjoy and navigate through that process?
Well, I find seeing, I'm kind of like obsessed with my friend's success.
Cool.
Yeah, it's I'm not gonna say it's like I live vicariously through them, but if one of my friends is doing really well, even if it's something small, it gives me this weird boost. I get the warm and fuzzies is the easiest way.
I don't think any of that's weird, by the way. I feel exactly the same way, and probably again, when you're in this journey for me, because Mrs. Pops and I were comparing notes. Like, it's been like 20 years. And she's like, it might be a little older than that because we were doing this. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And it's like, now that I'm doing this, like the world is like, I shortened it to be more focused. Like, when certain YouTubers that I'm closer to and you see different milestones, I get so excited and happy for them. I really, really do. And it's got to be strange in some ways to people who don't do this. But I get what you're saying, Wolfer Brother. I really, really do.
Because I always found it like fascinating to see someone's journey, and like that they're gonna take off or something's gonna happen, and then when it does, and I'm like, dude, I told you, like, I didn't believe it. It's like, dude, you had to have, like, I saw this, I saw something there, and then like, it's seeing people achieve something that's difficult is something that I'm obsessed with. Like, my favorite evergreen show, I'm gonna call it, it's American Ninja Warrior. Because you see people go through the struggle there and then just to get to touch a buzzer at the other end of an obstacle course. There's stories and everything behind it. It's irrelevant, but you can see, like, every time that they get past one thing, the cheering, the motivation, the thrill of what they're able to do. And I love that. That's I love seeing people succeed.
I couldn't agree more, man. It's so for me, because you were on with Ryan Roger Athe and Reality Based, and he had always had this, I'll never get monetized, I'll never get this many subscribers or whatever. And I was watching the journey, and I understood exactly the law of numbers and how he was playing. And when we were interacting about doing Reality Based, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be so good. And you could just see how comfortable he's gotten doing it. And I'm like, Yeah, he's cracked the code. He just doesn't realize it. Like he doesn't
Well,
really understand like the potential that he's really tapped into yet.
that's what I said to him. I said the way in which you've gone about it is stupidly smart. You're building
Mhm.
up your fan base. Your fan base is purely and simply YouTubers. Like,
It's
and how
you
it,
promoting other people. People
yeah,
are
and
only associating positive things with you because you helped everyone go along the way, whatever step that is. Like I couldn't agree more, Grant. It's so I don't know. So there was an interview. Andrew Schultz was on with Chris Williamson, and they were talking about Joe Rogan briefly. And Schultz was talking about how Rogan has helped so many people along the way. And that if he ever needed anything, of course, those people are going to be there for him because he's always done nothing but try to help them.
yeah,
And that is kind of like Ryan in a bottle. Like
yeah,
Ryan, it's like, oh, come on my channel and talk to me. He thinks that he's only thinking like, I'm enjoying this conversation. Maybe I'll get some exposure. Maybe I'll get whatever. Yet the other person, because I've been on his show, you've been on his show. It's like, yeah, but I want to hang out with Ryan. I want to see what kind of crazy burp or blooper I can get out of him. Is he going to wear his bathrobe or not? Is something going to fall on him or not? I mean, I love just the experience of the show, and he's built an entire model on all of that, and yeah, it's fantastic. So I couldn't agree
so I
with you
said to
more.
him, I said
Yeah,
it's a very smart play that he did. Like, and he doesn't see it as anything special. I'm like, dude, like, I wish I thought of it. You know,
he's just a
I'm just like,
genuine
oh,
dude.
it's so simple, so simple.
He's just a genuine guy though, and I think that's what makes it so pure and
Yeah,
honest and so real. It's like you're right, he doesn't realize it's a play. He looked at it more like what he wanted to do and what he could accomplish. Like he looks at
yeah,
it more through the window, and it's like, oh no, this was a brilliant. It's almost like the person that kind of like accidentally solved the Rubik's cube,
yeah.
and like they're like, I don't really know what I did, but I did it, and it's like, yeah, that was
I
brilliant.
know what I
Well,
did. I just don't know how I got there.
yeah. So that's awesome. So, so what's next for Mr. Grant Gregory? How do you navigate the next steps, the baby steps going forward with just literally like the last 4 months of 2022 or just absolute chaos for you, my brother? So it's like that's just crazy. I've been seeing pieces of this. I remember the the call to arms to tweet and notify YouTube that the dude's channel's been stolen. Like it's just I remember all of it. What happens now? Like how do you move? We're 2023. It's like what's the baby steps for you, man?
Well, I've got to just pull my finger out my ass and get back into it. Plain and simple.
Mm.
I've got my behind the mic uh, show very similar to what you do, where I do a little bit more of a bit of a deep dive into into someone's past, and sort of things like that, looking for that little nugget of nostalgia within a person. When you
Mm.
see that in a person, it's infective. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not too sure if you saw the one with Gary,
Oh,
with
yeah, it
Nerdrotic.
was gold. That was one of the first ones on your channel that I got into because I mean I just obviously Gary's story and my story are the difference is he went to jail and I had a family.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
like it was this parallel of, I mean I know it's a horrible analogy and I when I talked to him personally I tried to explain it and it was like yeah you just kind of like have these gaps in life and whatever and then they become these massive life lessons. But you were able to like I forget oh no, it was him and Melissa. I think you knew the detail
yeah. So
of yeah.
with that, how that works. Spilling the secret sauce here. He's never stated that. That was something that was never stated. Um, I know that he used to hang out with his wife before they were that they were friends.
Mhm.
And I knew that he liked going to a theater because he mentioned about going to the theater.
Mhm.
On his wife's Facebook page, she had a post from 2012, I want to say, um, where she says it was like a happy birthday. Can't believe it all started with a bite.
Mhm.
Um, And so you piece a couple of things together here and there. And when he was talking about the Kent Theatre and constantly going to that one, I put 2 and 2 together and go, okay, so that's the theatre that he was talking about. I know he stated that his first kiss was non-traditional in the past. He said on a stream a few years ago. So you piece all those things together, and then it was just like, all right, tell me about the Kent Theatre, and then the bite on the neck that changed your life.
It was brilliant.
And then when he remembered it afterwards, there's that moment where he's just paused. He's just like, "Whoa, I haven't thought of that in years," sort of thing. And it's capturing that moment within someone and capturing that moment for them as well. Like I had one with 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. There's a local band that he likes. They were only a very, very small one, but he was really into them 10 years ago. Called The Art of the Flesh. So I found out about them through one of his old posts. He said, "Oh, it was something like, I'm going to be rocking to this song until I'm 50 or 60 or whatever it was." And it just had the name of the band, the name of the song. So I had to find the name of the band from that. Realized it was a local one to his area. And then just asked him, I said, are you still down with, Art of the Flesh? And like, he's just like, wait, what? How do you know that? Like, and then
That's
he was
awesome.
remembering different things about it. And
Yeah.
that's what I like to do with them. I like to put, I think my interviews usually go for about 45 minutes to an hour and a half sort of thing, depending on who it is, but it's a month worth of prep work for each
That's
one.
awesome.
That's I've just got to get back into it. I've actually got one with Ryan Roger after. We ended up talking for about 2 or 3 hours, so I got a lot of work to cut that one down. So
it's so much fun though, because again, radio interviews, which I've done, that's if you go back, that would be the bulk of a lot of the stuff I had done was, and some of the stuff's just lost, like it's just gone, right? And then but if you could get someone to go, oh man, that's a good question, you feel like you really did your job, you feel like you tapped into something that is exploratory and interesting. It's fun for them. I've never had anything but positive whenever those moments happen. So yeah, no, that's great. I knew we would be kind of cut from that same cloth too, because I get that feel. And when you ask Gary those moments, and you've done that on a couple other interviews as well, even on streams, you'll say some things from time to time. I think you get credit, because I think we talked about Tar briefly when we were on Sporking News, and it was like, you really well defined like that concept of like a one-time watch.
Yeah.
And that's so hard for like normies to get their head around, and then fandom, because the fandom and the community loves the idea of affection for something that is so rewatchable. So for them, it's something that's not like that. They just like don't want any part of it. Like it doesn't make it in their circle.
Yeah, they don't understand how something can be good and at the same time,
or even great. Like it can be great and only worth once. Like Tar is like that. Tar is a great movie. I totally get why you would never want to watch this movie again. Like I totally get it.
I think for me the best example of a film like that is probably Joker.
See, yeah, you said that on that stream, and I said mine was Philadelphia, and it was like, yeah, I can't. See, I haven't watched Joker again yet, but I want to watch Joker again. So I'm with you there too, though. It definitely fits this category of film that's great, but yeah, I don't want to sit through it again. Yeah, gotcha.
And I think that's the big problem. There's not enough single use films anymore. Like something everything has to be spectacular or spectacle or anything like that. That's crazy. Or it has to have some sort of gimmick to make it rewatchable. Not the fact that it was a rewatchable film. Like I always say that about Saw, the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a movie that's a rewatchable film, but you go back to watch it because seeds have been planted. Same with The Sixth Sense sort of thing. It's not necessarily a good film, but it's a film that has a gimmick of rewatchability.
Interesting you say that one, because that's the one that I was just discussing with my wife, because she loves M. Night Shyamalan movies, and I've told her how I do not want to watch Sixth Sense again.
Yeah.
And it's been so long. I'm like, maybe I should give it a chance and see like the rewatch, do like a rewatch review. Like, how did it hold up? And I'm enjoying that process because I'm trying to, on my channel, I've started like Throwback Thursdays, and I've done, you know, the Saturday morning cartoons. So I'm really enjoying the idea of trying to promote a lot of good content as well. And there is something to be said for that. You know, would I watch it multiple times? Is it rewatchable? And I think that this is where a lot of Hollywood, like Oscar films, had fallen. I think this year's crop is better than it has been because a lot of the Oscar stuff was not only not rewatchable, it wasn't really good the first time. It was like okay. Like there are elements of it that are good, but they weren't great. This year has a lot of great films. I think even the Banshees of Inisherin is a great movie. It's just that it's a very Coen brother, quirky, odd sort of film. And if you're not into that, I don't want to tell you, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
you know,
as I said, look at it as in Bruges 2, and then you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
The characters.
None of the people watching it even know what we're talking about when we talk
Yes.
about Bruce. So we'll end there because, folks, let me tell you what, it's been a blast talking to Mr. GG, man. Mr. Grant Gregory is awesome. Thank you, man, bro. What a freaking bunch of war stories, indeed. Like the journey. You know, so many people are they treat YouTube like this frivolous thing and it's fun. It's whatever. You've been through the ringer in like the last 4 or 5 months, man. I understand, man. I tell you, it's rough. So, folks, everything is in the comments. Links to stuff. The link to that channel monetization policy stuff's in the comments as well. Put that in there for you guys. Make sure you connect. Make sure you sub. Check out stuff. And like I said, great interviews, great content, great interviews. Go check out his stuff. I think you really, really enjoy it so much. So thanks again for Grant for joining us for a Watch Your Story.
Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat to little old me on the other side of the planet.
I'm loving every minute of it, brother. Loving every minute of it. Thanks, folks. Thanks for joining us.